Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Hey,
Good
there
morning.
you go. Sorry, I had my head down. My bad.
What's going on? How y'all doing?
What's up? Hey everyone.
Pretty good.
For joining
What up?
me.
Hey,
Hello,
hold on a
black
second.
people.
Beautiful black people.
Okay, yay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hilarious.
Autumn, you're on mute. Can't
Hello.
hear you.
I
There
know,
you
I'm
go.
fixing this mic. Hold on a second. I'm fixing this mic.
Hello.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Hey,
Good morning.
well, sorry, I had my head down. My bad.
What's going on? How y'all doing?
So, hey everyone.
Pretty good.
For joining me.
Hey,
Hello, black people.
Beautiful black people.
Okay, yay. Hi, everybody.
Uh-oh, did I lose you guys?
I'm still here.
I'm
I
here.
lost my screen.
I can see you. I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. My screen went away. Thank you for those being patient with me. I was just waiting for everyone to kind of funnel in. So I appreciate you guys. There's somebody else. I'm just trying to open this up.
okay, I think I'm all right now.
Hey guys.
Hi. Okay. So, as you guys know, I reached out to you to kind of discuss what's going on today with the protesting and the marching and the protesting and the marching and all that stuff. So, I don't see anyone else. I think I got everyone so far. So, we're going to get started if everyone is ready. Okay, so I thank you guys for joining me. Like I said before, it's a few of us here, so everything that we're going to talk about and discuss, just give everyone the opportunity to speak. Please don't, talk over one another. And, let's kind of just see where everyone's mind is right now. Sound good? So
Sounds good.
how is everyone doing in light of the protesting and the marching and all that stuff?
Oh, it's heavy.
It is heavy.
It is.
It's been a
Yeah,
lot these
it's a lot
past
going on.
couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot going on, definitely.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Sue. I feel like I needed to join the meeting because I've been in a weird space of trying to, I guess, deal with everything that's going on around me right now because I work for a company that's maybe 95% Caucasian. So they didn't bother to send like a phone call, like nothing in light of everything that's going on. So I can easily say that it's been cumbersome. But I'm trying to hang in there. How are you guys doing?
For all processing, I was saying to someone the other day, it's been hard to write. I think these last 2 days are the first days in a while that I felt that I could write without it feeling like very labor intensive. Like my words came back, because it's a lot, and trying to also flatten the noise. I think it's important. Like if you're a creative person, I think it helps to ease up watching on the news, not to say that you don't care about the protest, but just giving yourself a little bit of peace and you're being more present with your family. I think that helps me. I mean, I'm definitely happy that people are speaking up, but at the same time, I can't be in the bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And this week, I just feel like there's been so much, especially in journalism, exposed on how, you know, media is keeping Black writers down and people who've been in positions, oh, God help us, 32 to 35 years are going, oh, oops, I could have done better, or how can we do better? I'm like, you've been in this job for 35 years. You don't know, things have not gotten better because you didn't want them to get better. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit exhausted from cut and paste apologies.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to my job. The other day on Tuesday, we had a company-wide Zoom meeting. And at the end of the Zoom meeting, my CEO was giving one of those generic apologies. I wasn't aware of what's going on. I'm not sure. And it was just kind of insensitive.
Can't really hear it.
Had anything similar like that going on at work?
Can y'all hear me?
I didn't really hear you. The mic cut out.
Yeah. The mic is like it's somebody's mic is creating some type of static.
It's the fan. Somebody's sitting right in front of the fan. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody heard the last part of what you said.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I was saying I was going through something similar like that at work, and I was just thinking to myself, like, what my CEO was saying was completely insensitive to the fact of what everything was going on, because she kept talking about herself and her son and things going on personally, not trying to be insensitive to what she's going through, but at the same time, it's like, do you really get what we're saying? Do you really understand what's happening here? Why the Black the organizations are not very comfortable? Really,
Right.
don't understand.
They don't, it's almost like still today that people just don't want to understand. It's like they just don't, it's such a fragile subject, but what's crazy is why is it so fragile for them? You know what I mean? Like, y'all ain't you know what I mean? Like, well, I guess because they're the ones that's, you know, doing the unjust, but still it's just like I just think some people, I think that there are a lot of people that just don't want to talk about it still.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to acknowledge it. It's just the unspoken for them, you know, no matter how they say they feel about it.
Well, that kind of brings me into my first question. As far as who is responsible for starting the conversation? Are we as Black people responsible for starting the conversation? Or are our organizations responsible for bringing it to our attention? Who is responsible for saying, hey, we see what's going on and this is not it?
I
don't
mean,
think we
it
hold the
was already
responsibility.
done. I mean, why does there even have to, why is this even a question? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's what's done has been done for ever and ever and ever for all these many years and all these many videos that are just now surfacing. Like, why couldn't you be a responsible quote unquote corporate leader or whatever? You know, I have all these fancy terms in these huge corporations with all these different people, all these different levels of managers. You know, a manager or a boss or a leader, y'all are supposed to be leaders. You know what I'm saying? Why do I have to come to you and be like, did you see what happened? Did you see what happened?
Right.
Y'all think y'all might? No, that's not for me to do. And if y'all not coming out to say, you know, and I don't like the copy and paste statements either. I hate them, as a matter of fact. Like, they're cringy. It's like, I get on my portal today and here's this whole Black Lives Matter thing, but I just, there has to be a better way, I guess. I don't know.
I call those cut and paste apologies, because it literally sounds, you have it on your whatever drive and you just change a word or two to fit today's narrative or what happened. Like, you know, this person died, just change out the name. And you can tell that it is very PR, HR, corporate generic. There's no sensitivity in to your group of people. And I guess to answer your question, to say it is not like, if you're the lone Black person, and since I've been the lone Black person in corporate America, and that's why I don't work in corporate America anymore, we are not the national spokesperson for Black people. If you really are invested in making all your employees feel comfortable, it is your job to find out what is it that I need in order to have a good work experience. It's not my job to tell you. You should care enough to have that one-on-one, whether it's my supervisor, my manager, or whatever. This is why I said, when I said before, is it's very these companies, you know, like Harper's Bazaar just named a Black editor-in-chief after 153 years. That is purposeful. That is on you, you know. Or if Black employees are leaving, and the exit interview always is, I hate working here because, or I didn't get paid rightly for work that I did. They see that. But right now, everybody's under a microscope. So they're like, ooh, we better do something because we don't want to be known as the racist place. But in reality, if they really cared, they were in a position to do something. They just chose not to.
It's almost like a marketing ploy that, you know, everybody's trying to save face right now because it's a hot topic, and it's so generic, it's so fake, it's not genuine, you know. And I hate seeing, you know, first Black, this and that, and it's been hundreds of years that you could have had an opportunity to put somebody in that position. It's like, why just now? It's so generic.
Yeah, and the question, as far as like the question, you said, who's responsible to have the conversations? I feel as though it's Black people's responsibility to have the conversation with Black people, and it's white people's responsibility, if they want to have it with other whites about it. And I say that because I mean, we have to have more conversations with ourselves about how we can be more independent, more self-sufficient, instead of just like reacting to the racism that's being done to us in this country. Like, you know, I heard somebody earlier was like, well, I used to work in corporate America and I was the only person there, so now I don't work here anymore. I'm saying that's something, I mean, it's big for her, but that's something that, like, that mindset that I feel like is a lot of, we need to have a conversation about that more. It's like, instead of us trying to like convince them not to oppress us or trying to do these things, I think we need to do more of empowering ourselves. And that's why I say that Black people need to have more of an empowerment conversation around each other. And I see that it's on a small scale, it's happening. I see it, you know, like I see it, like this is like the first time I feel like in a long time. A lot of people are talking about businesses. A lot of people are talking about the economy. People are talking about arming themselves. People are talking about ways to, I guess, resist white supremacy and not just survive it. Because I feel like surviving it and while everything is effective, but trying to survive all the stuff, it's never going to stop, and it hasn't stopped over however many years the Black people have been in this country. You know? So that's just my little short opinion on your question.
But like to kind of piggyback off what Isaac said, like I get it. We do have to sometimes kind of have to like coach them on how to process things. But in the same sense, it kind of become exhausting after a while. Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I work for a company where it's maybe 90-95% Caucasian. And they don't even bother to say anything in reference to what's currently going on. And they don't realize that it's mentally, physically, and emotionally affecting me. So my performance is not going to be the same. I'm not going to be as engaged with my employees, with my team members, with my management team. It's just not going to be the same. So I feel like if you have people within your team that are not affected by the current things that are going on around the world, sometimes it's hard to kind of blend in, or there are some people that do kind of just keep their heads down and just work. and I'm not that type of person. I have a mouth on me, so I'm probably the one that's going to be like, hey, so this is the Zoom meeting. Everyone introduce themselves. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm too. Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? But it's also exhausting when you don't have that support system. 9% of the people around you that don't understand what's actually happening. That becomes emotionally draining after a while. So how do you kind of wear yourself away from that?
I wanted to answer the question too. Not to negate your question, but to original question, I think at this point,
Everybody don't think like this.
I think at this point that we've been trying to have this conversation for like 400 years, 150 plus years, and we just look foolish trying to have this conversation with them. And even after this murder, some of them are still don't want to have this conversation, and some of them majority of them are still don't want to have this conversation, and majority of them are still ignorant. So why are we wasting our time always trying to reach out the hand? We're the ones who are the victims. We're the ones who've been wrong. I've never seen in a society, or I've never seen like the mentality where people who are wrong or who are the victim reach out to the people harming them like, hey, let's have this conversation. No, it's not on us to have this conversation. We tried to have this conversation. It didn't work. It's still not working. Like my man Isaac said, yo, it's just time to just talk amongst us. If y'all want to talk to us, yeah, come talk to us and we can educate you on what's going on. But for us reaching out and like having this mindset, let's reach out to them and have this. I'm not reaching out to you for nothing. Y'all know your history. You know what happened. You know what's been happening. It hasn't changed. We still trying to reach out to them. We still trying to have this conversation. When do we say enough is enough and we ain't talking to you no more? It's kind of like a friend. If your friend has been doing you wrong for a minute, you're gonna be like, no what? I'm cutting you off. I ain't talking to you until you reach out to me. But as far as what Isaac saying, I agree. Like the main conversation we should be having is among us. We shouldn't be trying to reach out to the majority to have the conversation to change race, because we're not the problem. Y'all the problem.
Yeah.
So can I just say something real quick, and just to go back to what you like, us being like working corporate and us being only one of us being there, that's part of the problem. Like that dynamic is messed up already from the jump. Is that, and I get it. We gotta make money. We gotta earn. We have to earn a career and do stuff like that. And I'm not telling anybody to sacrifice anything. I'm just saying that that's what like the mindset that we got to change of like, let's change the dynamic of, so corporate America isn't just 95% black. You see what I mean? And so that we won't even have that issue, and you won't even have, that's what I'm saying. We got to start thinking more along the lines, but.
It's like it's a double-edged sword, because you almost have to look at one situation where we have to see what's happening to us. We have to see ourselves being, killed on the streets at the hands of law enforcement. But then at the same time, we have to gather ourselves, go into our corporate space with our, colleagues and explain to them what's going on. We shouldn't have to explain anything. You've seen it on the news. You've seen what was going on. And it's like a constant, tug of war with, seeing the images, as well as having to explain and shout and scream at the top of our lungs what's been going on. And I agree, we shouldn't have to have those conversations unless they're amongst ourselves, how we feel and what's the next move.
Right.
So I got a question. You guys are saying like, so you want to talk amongst ourselves. Can somebody just let me know, like, what will we be discussing at that time? What are we talking about when we're discussing it with ourselves? Because there's a large portion of us, unfortunately, that they're unaware of the oppression that's going on in systematic racism.
Well, we're definitely
That's
exactly it. So
talk about, because we just, to be honest, we just talking about police brutality, but they're systematic and white supremacy on a grand scale. It's like a large ass iceberg. We could see certain things, but we don't see what's underneath. That's what we have to talk about amongst ourselves.
And I think that you like answering the question. Yeah, it's like there's a large all of us that don't know. Some people, everybody's not unwilling to learn. Like there's gonna be some people that don't want to hear that type of stuff, but there's some people that actually just don't know. And as soon as you present some information to them, they're willing. You've increased their perspective on it. So I think like that's what I'm saying. Like as far as what you're saying, what we be talking about, we would be talking to people who don't understand and coming up with a plan, having conversations like we're doing right now. Which I feel like is progressive, to like share thoughts and share people's different perspectives. You know, somebody may say something and you may have some type of,
Well, since we're here talking about the community, because we won't get there, but since we're here already, where do you guys think that the change starts in our communities? Because there's certain things that go on in the community that I feel that we have to combat first before we can even have the audacity to tell someone to allow us to sit at the table and figure out how to stop police brutality, racism, etc. So what do we have to do in our community first, aside just saying we have to have the conversation? Like, we have to educate, we have to give jobs, we have to shop in our communities, etc. What do you guys think that we have to do in our communities in order to move forward?
Well, I think first and foremost, like you said, education is prime. I think the smarter we are to understand that, we can take care of our own, and the importance of taking care of our kids and making sure they understand their lineage. I think that's the first part of it. But also, I think we need to encourage our kids to be the police officers too. Legislation, people that's going to change laws. I think it's a big stigma, for people to hear about police officers. But the more Black police officers, the better chance we have of having easy conversations with them, easy pullovers. It's less likely that we will be victimized by our own if we encourage our kids to be in law enforcement, and also change laws. I mean, we can educate ourselves, we can have our own businesses, we can do a lot of things in our own communities, but if we're not in legislations in order to make change and change laws, I think we'll be beating a dead horse. Because I think at the end of the day, if none of us are in there in order to make laws to benefit us, then we're going to be in the same position 100 years from now.
Breonna Taylor, they just passed the Breonna's law like about an hour ago. I'm in Louisville, so I'm right where it happened. Yeah. And things like that, that should have never happened. So they banned the no-knock warrants from going forward. Little things like that. We're trying to get the language changed in like the fraternal order police contracts, because that's why the officers really haven't been arrested yet. It's because they can't be arrested while it's being investigated. So changes to laws, changes to legislation, knowing who we're voting for and what they believe and what they stand on. Like right now, everybody's being called out on everything. Yeah. Like it had a unanimous vote, and that was at the hands of people going to their door, literally, where do you stand on this? We need to know, because we need to know where we need to vote, those type of things.
But also say that we need to do a better job of protecting Black women. I feel like we as Black women, we throw our whole limbs to protect Black men, but we don't always get that type of support, especially when, we did this, I'm writing a piece on this whole situation with Russell Simmons. And it is really sad to see that they're not giving, they're giving Russell a platform. And whether you believe he did this or not, we're not supporting these women. When Black women say, it takes a lot. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And as Black women, we always think about, because we know the justice system is not fair to Black men, how we think super, super hard about speaking up and saying that this person assaulted me, who also happens to be a Black man, because we already know that the system is not in your favor. But at the same time, we can't be silenced if violence is being committed against us. And it's very daunting to me, not just with this case, but other situations when Black women say, I've been violated, or this person molested me as a child, how we as a community don't speak up or put our arms around these women. It's always a whole bunch of connotations of, well, this person was a jump off, this person was this, was this person of that. The definition of rape is not you are an honorable, church-going, pure woman. The definition of rape is you continue to press forward when I said no. No means no. It doesn't matter if you are a $5 crack hoe or if you are a Puritan. No means no. And if women are coming forward, in this era of Me Too and Time's Up, the community, Black men need to do a better job of holding other Black men accountable and it's just not being done enough. And I'm not saying there aren't good brothers out there, but we as a community are horrible, in my opinion, when it comes to violence against children. There are too many people suffering in silence that are standing up saying, I was molested. And we allow, because we prey on it, or we don't want anybody, because we all were raised, but we don't tell anybody's business outside of the house. But that's this business that we do need to tell, so other people can be safe, that your kids can be safe. And I definitely would like us to get better at that whole process. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that, every person that is accused, that no one deserves due process, but we need to be a little bit more supportive.
Yeah. And I believe that as well, because a lot of the times when these type of situations happen to Black women, it's in the news for a day or two, and then it's forgotten. Whereas the Black man, everything is in uproar. And I personally do believe that Black men need to stand next to us just as much as we stand next to them. And sometimes it's not that same give and take. It's a Black woman has died or was killed or was murdered. Okay, a Black man is killed. Here we go again.
I think topics like this are very interesting because oftentimes what I see a lot in the Black community is like, where do we start first? Oh, we have to start with education. Oh, we have to start with like supporting the Black woman. But I think we have to realize that we cannot be jacks of all trades. You have to put your leaders and your experts in specific industries that they know. So like, for example, if you see that there's a problem in education in the way that Black students are being taught, then you put your educators that understand that system on a macro and on a micro level. And what I mean by that is like, I'm looking at this from a social work perspective. I remember when I was in my program, I used to be like, oh, I'm only a macro practitioner. I only want to do policy work and community advocacy. But in order to do that, you also have to have people on the ground doing the work as well. So instead of asking like, well, where do we start first? Why don't we recognize that you need people on the ground fighting, you need people on community levels fighting, and you also need people on a local and state and federal level doing policy work. And then you find the people that understand those industries and enact change that way. I don't think you can enact change by, oh, first we have to combat police brutality before we combat education, or first we have to combat education before we combat how Black women are treated in seen. I think these are all issues that affect us simultaneously. And in order to affect change, you have to do it simultaneously, but have multiple people that understand and are actual masters and not jacks of trades.
I agree.
In the Black community, we do that a lot.
I agree with that. I definitely agree.
I think in the Black community, we do a lot of, well, we have to do this and we have to do that and this and that. No other race talks about what they have to combat first in their own community before they get equity and access to certain things. Black people are, or what I am seeing, the Black community does that a lot. And I think it's doing us more of a disservice, focusing on what's wrong in our community first, instead of saying, hey, collectively, we all want the same thing, whether we're Black, white, Latinx, whether we are cisgendered or binary, whatever background we come from, in essence, we all want the same thing. So in essence, we have to look at it from a macro level and then break it down to a meso, then break it down to a micro, or even do it vice versa. I don't think you can focus on one thing first and then go to the next and think that's going to be like how you solve different problems. You just have to work on it simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Also,
I think
just-
too,
just
when
to-
it comes to education, I think we say educate a lot, but I think that we have to be more mindful to not just point fingers. Like I'm a solution type of person. So if you're going to come to me and say, or if you're going to allude to the fact that there's something that I'm not doing right or that I can improve on, I need you to either already have a solution, or I need you to to assist me in finding a solution or point me in the right direction of a solution or something like that. And yeah, there has to be some sort of understanding from where, where you're coming from. But I just think that we really do a lot of finger pointing.
So I feel like I agree, like with portions of what you guys said. I feel like we need to pour money and resources into systematic things or
Absolutely.
right, or in systems, because a lot of times just enough of just this door-to-door thing. A lot of times we like each one teach one, you do your part here, and it's not realistic, because we are up against systems and people who have backing. Like, you have the media, right? That's the media is a platform, right? That gives people information every single day. Like, millions of people get information from the media every single day. Here am I trying to, like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna just go door to door and talk to this black person, educate this black person, educate this black person. I'm gonna tell this person, I'm gonna just do my part. And we feel good about what we're doing, but in reality, it's not enough. That's why I'm saying, like, in order to defeat a system, you have to create different systems, right? So, like, and I'm just saying, in the perfect world, we've poured our money and our research, and now we have a black-owned media, right? Now our media, whatever, or our social network, whatever it is producing information that gives people information, in our benefit. Like, if you look at like a news like Fox News, right? Fox News keeps a lot of white folks ignorant. They have propaganda, they have different things that they put out these messages every day, but people believe this stuff and they hold it like it's a religion or something like that. Like, Fox News is like the news network for a lot of people. And that's what I'm saying, is like, that's like a system, like a structure that's in place that people pour money into, that is literally like the driving force of a lot of ideas and philosophies. If whatever we want to do, whether it's education, whether it's public safety, because I don't believe you necessarily need the police, you definitely need some type of public safety. But whatever you want to pour money, black people need to pour their money, and we need to come together and, like I said, create infrastructure, systems, and different things that will help us. It's not enough. The word of the tongue or just talking about it is not enough. And even just individually, it's not enough. We have to come together and create something. Like, and I know BET is not owned by black people anymore, but that's just another example of what I'm talking about. Black people had their own network, right? Or Robert Johnson, whatever, created this whole network. That was BET was powerful. I know he ended up selling everything like that, but I'm just saying, think about it like that when it comes to like schools, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to jobs, like the economy. Like, if we think more along the lines, I feel like it'll make it easier. And the change will come sooner than we expect it to. So,
but that's why I say that black people have a responsibility to take back their communities and educate their communities. It's not necessarily saying, oh, well, we can't combat all these things at one time, but it's saying, how do we continue to have these how do we continue to have these conversations if we're not banking at black banks, if we're not having schools where we're teaching our kids XYZ, if we're not supporting our black businesses, our black stores, but then on the same time we say, well, it's too much to take on at one time. How is it too much to take on at one time?
You can do small things. I agree with you. People say you can keep your money, you can have an account with Bank of America, because Bank of America is all over the country, right? If you travel and you're like, I need a bank that I need to have something that, if something goes down, I can go in and do what I need to. That doesn't mean that you can't keep some money with, here in the Philadelphia area, the Black Bank is United Bank. The two, it's not either or, you know what I mean? You can, I think sometimes we feel as though you can do double things. Like, you can buy a book from a Black author and buy it from a Black bookstore. That's a double, plus. But I think sometimes we do, and I think also when people mean education, which is such a broad word, we need to also, for most of us, I know for me, I don't want to speak for everybody, in order for me to learn about Black history, it was through my parents. And the first time I honestly learned about Black history in a classroom setting was college. And that's horrible, because if you are in the inner city or in a predominant Black neighborhood and you don't get taught about your contributions to this country until you literally get to college. No wonder you don't think of yourself. You don't think you contributed anything. And if you don't have the fortune of having a parent or having someone in your life to say, hey, this is us. These are our writers. These are our scholars and stuff like that. So if you don't learn about yourself until you're like 18 or 19 years old, how can you be expected to love yourself, to think positively about yourself, to walk through the world with your head up high? You know, if we're teaching English, okay, we're learning Hemingway, we're learning Fitzgerald. It should be mandatory that Baldwin or Hughes or Morrison are in there just as well. Those are important writers too. They just happen to be Black. We all got to read Hemingway. We don't get a choice in that. It should be vice versa.
So what I get your point, but when do we start taking ownership for certain things as far as like for the education piece? I feel like if you want to know more beyond what they're teaching you in school, like kids, and I don't want to put this on kids, I'm just going to say in today's society, we have access to a plethora of knowledge, access galore. The same way like we go online to figure out the lyrics to our favorite songs, or we go online to find like where the cheapest prices of something. There is too much accessibility to knowledge that you are unable to educate yourself about your own history. Granted, the school kind of gives you I don't want to say the foundation, but they give you what they think is an outline of Black history or whatever history you're interested in. But we have cell phones, we have laptops, there are still books, there's studies. When we go to our universities, there's community organizations, there's church organizations. Even asking like your own parents or whomever is accessible to you, there is a wealth of knowledge. It's just about how do you go about accessing that knowledge, and if you want to access that extra knowledge. Because the stuff that we are taught in school, you can easily get a book. There's a book called Lies My Teacher Told Me by James, I can't remember his last name, by James somebody, and it's literally a study, and he goes and debunks everything, starting from like the the Mayflower all the way up to like the Obama era in his presidency. So I get it, like we do have to require schools and certain institutions to provide certain information, but at the same time, I can't go into a meeting and say, I want you to talk about my history, but I don't even know what I want you to talk about if I haven't gone out and gained that knowledge for myself.
But here's the thing that I understand what you're saying, but we pay for public education. We pay taxes. It's not free. So if it was one of those things where the school was free and we didn't have to contribute, then that would be different. But we all pay taxes, and the school system has to adjust to the community that it's teaching, and it has to grow. But
in order to teach people, you have to give them that knowledge. And if you don't know the knowledge yourself, what are you teaching?
No, wait. Well, so let me chime in here. So, I'm a vice principal actually at Sacramento High School. 98% African American kids. I mean, we graduate some of the highest achieving kids in the state of California. We got a pretty good base, but I will tell you what it is. What it is that you have a teachers union that controls the curriculum. So we got like 85 to 95% of white folks in that runs the union. This union is paying whatever legislation, whatever governor, whatever mayor to lay out their agenda. There is no African Americans on no union board in California. So therefore, our voice is not being heard. We happen to be a charter school, so we can actually do some curriculum ourselves. So we got gentlemen clubs, we got Sisters of Nia. Those are both empowering clubs that we offer to the kids after school and make it mandatory to graduate. These programs are being run in the community, but the problem is that it's only one of us in the whole city of Sacramento. So you have to understand, if you look at a huge city like Los Angeles, they're trying to get rid of charter schools. They know that Black people are coming together to run charter schools now and educating ourselves. So what they did is that now they're doing away with community assistance programs for those who run charter schools. We're losing all type of resources. We got to raise money for different things. So it's no longer attractive to come to a charter school if you're an African American. So I'm just giving you a little taste of what goes on, but I can understand both sides. But we have to teach our own kids, and it starts with strong individuals in the communities to run programs. We can't count on parenting, okay? Because maybe about 60% of our parents do not come and show up for their kids. We are the parents. So if we're going to be the parents, I have to accept the fact that my job is going to be 10 to 12 hours a day, like it normally is. I'm going to have to teach after school programs, but we need community. We need the community to help. We can't just rely on public schools to teach our kids, because that's not going to happen, because the agenda is ran by nothing but white people, and they care less about any of that. They want to teach slavery, Martin Luther King. Let's go to the next chapter.
Yeah, agreed. The programs that you brought in, did the school bring that in themselves, or was that a district that brought in those programs?
So I don't want to pat myself on the back. I'm the captain of the Gentleman Club. I'm the one who created the Gentleman Club, teaching men how to be young men and control their own destiny. Sister Ania is run by that sister. Her name is Sarah Camp. I mean, she does a really good job empowering Black women. We do things together sometimes, but a lot of times what happens is that we have kids that are in our system for about, we have elementary school. So we go from K all the way to 12. But a lot of times those kids around 4th, 5th grade, they have problems. 7th, 8th grade, they have problems, and they drop out before we even get them in high school. So we're starting to do it now in the elementary. So that way that we can kind of get a hold of the kids before they get to high school. We are connected with all the HBCUs, like every single one of them. So we are gearing our kids towards going to HBCUs, or for any college for that matter, just to get them started. But HBCUs is what we support. I mean, we got advisory classes named after Grambling, Southern, FAMU. We try to do things to encourage the kids. But to be honest with you, the community that we're in is gang affiliate, a lot of poverty, but we just don't make excuses. We just do what we can. And every teacher that signs on, and you'll be surprised, it ain't just Black people. It's a lot of white people that just care for these kids, that they have no clue. So they'll come to me, or they'll come to somebody to lead the chase. And we just have to run here comes another class. We got to run it, because ultimately what we're trying to do is teach our own kids. So I definitely agree with the James Baldwins and all that. I mean, that is real. Like that's such a real thing. A lot of our kids don't know anything about our history other than Black History Month. And we here in Lincoln, like, I mean, I got a whole list of things about Black History Month and how they run it in schools. It's damn near disrespectful. So,
go ahead.
Not to interject, I hear a lot of great things. One of the key things I'm hearing is about education, and with education, you gotta understand that it's just not education. It's just not like, oh, we gotta empower our kids. Yeah, that's part of it. But you also as an adult, as whatever age you are, and also teaching kids about the system that we're going against and how it's generationally impacting us. And I feel like a lot of our approaches are outdated. So for instance, and I'm saying as like a business finance major, we're talking about support Black business. That's great. I'm for that. I'm 100% behind that. But we got to get to a space where it's not just supporting Black business, but turn these Black businesses into corporations. Let's turn and build some more corporations. That's the approach you have to get on. Because why? Corporations buy politicians. They lobby to buy politicians to put in agendas in place that don't impact or is not for Black people. We keep talking about buying Black businesses, support Black business. That's great. We got to find a way to turn Black businesses into corporations, put these Black businesses on the stock market. Black people have the largest purchasing power. Purchase stock in these Black businesses to get corporations. Because when you get corporations, America only respects two things. I said this: white people and money. We got to get money. That's it. Once we get the money, we get the capital, we can buy these politicians, or not only buy politicians, put politicians in place to work for us. If you this is all like, and information you can look up. A lot of these politicians that make these laws make them because they're bought off. A lot of politicians are bought off by pharmaceutical companies who put shit in place to affect Black people's diet, to affect how like if you go to a doctor, the doctors is pumping medicine on you, and they do it 3 times as much on Black people because they want to put you on part in that form of the system now. They want to put you in that form of the system now. And then as my man was saying with education, the way we change education is we got to get legislation. We have to get politicians, legislators who want to push Black business. And I feel you with education because I'm a teacher myself. So I understand like the complete bullshit, for lack of better words, that you go through and you see in the education system. The education system is part of when you talk about like standards in the curriculum. We have to understand even the curriculum wasn't even made. They changed the curriculum because Black people started to get hip to it. We started understanding the curriculum. So they changed that shit to push us back. And as I've said this, like as Black people, we don't understand the system. And when we think we understand it, we're actually behind. So we got to find a way to get ahead of it or to get on the same track of it. So another example is Black communities, we're starting to do STEAM and STEM. Affluent neighborhoods was doing that in the 90s and the 80s. We're just starting it now. We're behind. What they're starting now is, they're starting to teach their kids how to code, make apps and all that stuff in high school and middle school. We're not going to do that for another 10, 20 years. So we have to understand the system as educators, whoever's the educator, understand the system, get on top of it. And then we have to push this agenda to our youth, to our kids in middle school and high school, and even people who are in college. Like, so we are like just so behind in the system, we don't know this. We think we know the system, and we really don't know the system. So we have to understand the system, how to get on top of it. Because the way we're moving this is why we're in this predicament. We're behind.
I don't think we're that far behind though. I think the media wants us to believe that we're that far behind. I don't think if you really look at our spending power, that tells you right there that we put ourselves in position to make money. We just don't make the right choices in order to create wealth for our future kids. So the thing is that if you really want to think about it, and I'm going back to education only because I really believe that it's not just about what we learn in the curriculum. It's all about structure and having them understanding to be free thinkers and understand how to change things. A lot of kids, and unfortunately, a lot of kids are, they're hypnotized by video games and television and YouTube and all that stuff. So we have to deprogram them to understand how to think freely and not follow trends of how things are being ran.
I don't think we have to deprogram them on certain things like video games and YouTube. I think you use what they like to push your agenda. That's what. But
that stuff is not made for us. That stuff is to make that stuff is to some of the smartest people in the world. If you look at just to some of the smartest people in the world, now I ain't talking about finances. I'm talking about some of the greatest thinkers in the world. They are not into that high-end technical stuff. They're into understanding how to make money all the time to put themselves in position anywhere they go, everywhere they go. Now, I understand inventions and going down that lane and being a tech person, but we have to learn how to continuously make money, have trades. When we were strong, thriving people, there's serious times in our era that we were running pretty well in certain areas of the country. I mean, California is not as engulfed as the South, but I'll tell you, man, we have certain areas of the country, Los Angeles, Bay Area, that there's some communities, some Black businesses that are doing very, very well. I'm talking about communities. And a lot of that has to do with the people that come back to the community from the schools in the neighborhood to give back, start programs, and do things. The person who opened our school is Kevin Johnson, the basketball player. So he used to go to Sacramento High School. He came back to the community. He opened St. Hope. He opened the bank. He opened 3 schools. He owns real estate, all in the community. I mean, this is what we need in order to, I think, take a step forward. There's a lot of thriving Black people that has 2-parent households, even single-parent households that do very well for themselves. But we need to take care of the ones who are on the bottom end because those are the kids that are going to push forward. Those are the warriors. These are the kids that you see that are burning down these buildings, fighting for their rights. These are some of the kids that are upset about what's going on. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, these are the warriors, and we just need to get their mind right to understand how to make this money and build in our communities. And I think we'll be all right. I don't think we're that far away.
I think so. With making money, I completely agree with that, because I did finance. I think we don't have financial
literacy,
right? But at the same time, we could use the systems to save our kids. So, for instance, you're a teacher, right? We're both teachers. We work in a system and we work in an institution that's not for our kids, but we're in this system to saving our kids. So we can do the same thing with like YouTube, with like video games. We have to infiltrate that system. So like, I just say this one quick thing. I played this one game, I know it's off topic, called Assassin's Creed. I learned a lot of real shit about history in that video game than I ever learned when I was in school. Right? Because it showed me the real. It got my all. It had me like, I was so fascinated in playing that game. We have to do the same thing with our kids. If our kids like Fortnite, if our kids like video games, let's get some Black people who know how to make games and infiltrate the video game system, and we secretly decode and put our own history and our own facts in it. That's how we can save our kids. We have to infiltrate all the factors and avenues of the systems